Okay, welcome to our new episode of For the Record. Today, very excited to be joined by Dr. Wes McCann, who I consider not just a great voice within our industry, but also a friend. So from here on out, are you fine if I call you Wes?
Absolutely, yeah, no problem.
Perfect. Well, today's episode, we're going to focus on, I want to dive into a few things, but ultimately the title of this episode is going to be around managing to the metrics and understanding the metrics that matter, not just from practice management, but also taking a look at the marketing and advertising side and how that can actually influence business decisions and business behavior. So I do a presentation on this often at Vision Expos, and based on the metrics that matter simply when it comes to marketing. But Wes, one of the things that I really do admire about you is that I've seen your decision making when you and I are on calls and kind of deciding on what's next. And one of those big pieces that seems to often lead to your decision making is you don't just go off feel. You take that into consideration, but you really want to know where the numbers are. So I guess I'll ask kind of the big picture question to you of, what does it mean to you to kind of like measure by the numbers or the metrics that matter in terms of making these decisions for your practices?
I think one thing you have to think about whenever you're looking at doing marketing is where are we marketing to and what are we marketing for? So is our process or what we're focused on right now bringing in new people and new bums and seats, or are we looking more at growing subspecialties within our own practice? Are we looking at growing a certain category within our practice? So if we're looking at bums and seats, then certainly we're looking at our doctor schedules. How far out are we booked? We have a few different locations. So are there certain locations that are a bigger priority to try to get more bums and chairs? Maybe we've added a new doctor and they have a couple gaps in their schedule. Or is there another location that we're booked 2 or 3 weeks out and we're not trying to bring in new bums and seats, but maybe we're trying to enhance the care that we're already giving in that practice. So focusing more on AMD management or myopia management or dry eye. So we're looking at the numbers of each practice of what our marketing goal is, I would say.
So you brought up a couple points there. So there's lots of avenues to take this, and I'm sure we'll get to all this. But the main thing that I want to touch on now is the fact that you talked about the different types of patients. You talked about a couple different specialties that you might be focusing on at one practice versus the other location. How important is it to you to look deeper than just total appointments or new versus returning? When you're looking at your schedules and when you're looking at not just that you want to grow, but how you want to grow, how much time do you put into that kind of who's actually coming in? Are we seeing the ideal patient?
You can do a lot, and it's amazing. Each practice has its own flavor, and it's different as well. And when you see the type of patients you're seeing, I mean, ultimately, we think of our process through with what's best for our patient, what's best for our practice, and then what's best for the industry. So we always make that decision tree or part of our decision tree. And so let's say if we're focusing within a practice and we want to not only attract a certain type of patient or grow a subspecialty within that practice, but say we have patients even within our practice that are great candidates for some of these things that just don't know they exist. And we have multiple doctors in our practices, and we don't all, as much as we try to, have similar talk tracks or focus on the same things. We have different passions within the industry of what we enjoy as well. So we want to make sure those patients are all well educated on what are the services that we offer and if you're a good candidate for some of those services. So a great example would be dry eye. So in a dry eye patient, number one, do our own patients know we offer dry eye services? So it's incredible the number that don't present to us saying they actually have problems with dry eye, and they just suffer silently with it. And then when we educate them that there are dry eye options, then they bring it up at their visit, or they know we have a focus in it. So then they start to talk to us about it, as opposed to just letting it be because they just think that's the way it is. So doing and again, I'm probably jumping ahead, but getting into internal marketing within the practice of emailing our patient base of, hey, what is dry eye? And do you suffer from this? And then here's some things that we can do to manage it. And maybe we focus on a couple of the in-office therapies that we offer that might be new technology to them. But the more the patient hears about these, it's not foreign the first time they come into the practice. So these touch points, and I think it's what you have to hear things 7 times before it sits in. Is that correct? 7?
That's correct, yeah.
So if they've seen it on our social media, and then they've seen it in email marketing, and then they've seen it when they walk into our practice, and then they hear it from the technicians because they're asking about dry eye, and then they hear it from us because we make the clinical diagnosis. By the time they've seen it, we've talked to them about it, they've been exposed to it so many times, and it's not a sudden thing that they suddenly think just come out of the blue when we're trying to sell them something. It's set in, they understand what the signs and the symptoms are, they recognize that they do have those, they've had time to process it, and then now they're ready for a solution.
So you know that I could talk marketing with you all day, but I think something else that I want to get into, especially when it's the metrics that matter and managing by the numbers, I think what you bring up there is something that perhaps a lot of longer term optometrists might say, just get them in the chair. As soon as I get the patient in the chair, then once I'm there, I can explain the next stage. I can explain why they need this type of care, or I can explain what dry eye is. You're talking about kind of telling people before they even get there about what to ask about when they're in there, like kind of almost communicating that message a little bit earlier. Am I correct on that?
100%. And when we go back to the numbers, we look at, okay, well, what practices are performing well in dry eye and which ones aren't? And we all have the same technology. So why is it that patient base A in practice A is doing better in dry eye than patient base B in practice 2, and they're all getting the chance to see the doctor and have the same conversation? But why is it that these two practices are performing so differently? Well, it might be that we have a focus on our website about dry eye at this practice, plus we have email marketing to them, and we have all these touch points for that patient that they can be well entrenched in what dry eye is by the time they come and see us. And then it's an easier conversation to salutate them or educate them on what they need to do to manage it. So I find that makes it much easier and less time for me to spend in the exam chair, because I have patients all the time now that are like, hey, I have this and this and this. Is that what you guys call dry eye? And I'm like, yes, it is. Like you know now what I'm looking for because you come into my chair prepared.
I feel like in the position that you've been in for years now of helping to grow practices, and at the same time helping other optometrists who come to work with your group and at the other practices grow, knowing these kind of numbers, knowing basically what doctor is doing really well at encouraging dry eye care and getting people into the right treatment, and then perhaps seeing some of the underlying numbers to go, this is something that I can actually manage my team to, or make recommendations to the other doctors working within our locations that, hey, we have this technology here, we've been telling patients about it. Like, I guess what I'm asking is, does seeing the metrics of what kind of traffic, what kind of audience coming into your website, or basically how they're responding to your email marketing or something like that, does it help you in managing the other team members at your locations?
The metrics help us to identify where maybe some of our gaps are and where our challenges are. So we may feel like this practice is well set up for dry eye. And if we see from our email marketing campaign that everyone's engaging in these emails, so clearly there's an interest in it. So where's the gap? Is it a knowledge-based gap? Is it a financing gap? Is it a education gap? Is it a doctor talk track gap? Where's the gap? So we can see that there's interest, and then the marketing helps us to eliminate one of those gaps. So eliminate the educational gap. We know that the education is going to be the same across the board for all the patients because they're all going to get that same information. And then it's reinforced at the exam by whichever doctor they're seeing. So we can try to eliminate gaps. It's all about like, how do you eliminate the barriers to entry for this patient? And so marketing gives us one of those barriers to entry. We know there's a need and we know there's interest because people are all engaging in it. And when we market externally as well, we get more engagement with these patients coming into our practice focused on dry eye. So we have an external SEO campaign or Meta or whatever campaign we're doing externally. We see the engagement, we see those patients book, but they have a focused interest now in dry eye. So they're asking those questions coming in. So it helps to create that loop of patients that we want to have both internally and externally coming in.
So maybe a bit of a chicken and the egg question here. Are you learning what to change within the business based on the metrics that you get back from marketing? Or are you seeing the business metrics and then talking to me about adjusting the marketing campaigns because of what you're seeing? Which do you think really fuels the changes within your business?
I think it depends on where we catch it in the cycle. So sometimes we'll say, hey, we want to have a focus on this. What are our metrics now? And then let's measure them later to see if that's changed. And then, and those may not just be marketing metrics. Those might be internal metrics in our practice, seeing, are we doing more dry eye as well? So it has the investment we've done in our marketing made a difference in our capture rate for dry eye as well. So we can measure it both externally in terms of the numbers that we're getting engagement wise, externally and internally. And then we can also measure, has it made an impact in what we're doing as well? So it's easy to do that in terms of just getting bums in seats, because you can see how many new patients do you have. So that's a great way of, again, using numbers to see, is my marketing paying off? So we can do a great job of doing recalls and getting our own internal patients back into the chairs, but what's our percentage of new patients that are coming in? So when we're ramping up our external marketing, we can look at what's our new patient rate currently, and if we've dumped this much money into marketing, what's our new patient rate now? So that's a great way of measuring success with numbers externally in terms of external marketing.
So one of the things that I've always appreciated in working with you and your group is the fact that you do very much put a lot of faith and trust and reliability in our team to come back with the marketing metrics and manage to that based on what we're seeing in terms of trends and basically patient feedback. When it comes to the metrics that you're tracking internally, that you're making decisions on, how you're evaluating what's doing well and the reason I bring this up is because I feel that a lot of the people who are going to be listening to episodes like this are some of the newer grads, some of the people who have just started their own practice and kind of looking at, great, I have patients coming in here. I know that we've got some dry eye. I know that we've got mostly frame sales and regular appointments. As someone who has done what I believe a lot of new grads are really seeking to do, which is grow and build a really well-performing practice and then evolve to more locations, what's your kind of advice to some of those newer optometry grads who are coming in and going, I don't even know where to start, let alone the marketing? Great, I can talk to a marketing group, but as a successful practice owner, where did you start in terms of tracking and kind of learning those metrics, what to even look out for to make those decisions?
I guess you have to figure out, number one, how do you want to grow? Like, are you a volume-based practice, or are you a comprehensive-based practice, or are you a boutique-like practice? Like, what are you going for? What's the brand that you want to carry? And when someone thinks of your practice, what's 3 words that they would say about your practice? So for us, it's like innovation, premium, and quality care would be things that I want people to think of when they think of us. So how do we represent that brand externally to our patient base? So when you're going to market yourself externally, again, what are you aiming for? You just want, if you're a new grad and you're a cold start, you want bums and seats. Like, you want to fill your chair. You don't have to do volume in terms of having to see patients every 10, 15 minutes, but you want bums and seats to fill your schedule on a reasonable time period, and spend the time making those relationships with patients so that they refer as well. But what's the brand you want to identify with? And I would start with getting bums and seats. And then once you're doing that, you can start doing easy internal marketing to your own patient base to grow your subspecialties, and then more focus out externally. But you need to pay the bills and get your bums and seats to start.
I feel like that outlook would influence your decision in what investments to make in not just technology or different specialties that you want to bring into the practice, but also in terms of the investment in what types of marketing campaigns that you want to run. Because I imagine that if your goal, like you said, sometimes we just need revenue in the door in order to grow to what we want to get to. Well, at that point, maybe making an investment in the most advanced, the highest tech IPL, or going down and getting into aesthetics right away or something like that, it'd be very similar to, do you really need to run 10 marketing campaigns based on 10 different specialties, or do you just need to focus on one thing? Like, how much is knowing your brand? Like you said, you've got your 3 characteristics of how you describe yourself. How important is that to you and your team in making the decisions on what to invest in and what not to invest in, both from a marketing and a technology side?
Yeah, so when we look at each individual location, we talk to the doctors about, like, what are you interested in? What are you interested in dry eye? Because I don't want to throw dry eye stuff into the practice if it's not a passion of yours. I mean, everyone should be doing migraine management. I think it's standard care, and disease-based care, I think, is super important with our aging population. So those things we're going to really focus on as core components of our practice. But those would be the biggest focus points. And then, so say a practice does want to get into dry eye. Well, what's the equipment you have to invest in to get that up to where you want it to be? And you don't need all the bells and whistles, but what is it that you could minimally get to be successful and appropriately manage with using, again, metrics to measure success of your treatments? So you need some sort of diagnostics and you need some sort of a treatment option. So what's that lease going to cost you over a period of 5 years? And if that lease is going to cost you that much, how many patients do you have to see every month to pay your lease on that equipment? And do you think that's feasible to do based on the patient base that you have? And yes, marketing can certainly help, but if you don't see that demand already in your practice, marketing is not going to create that demand for you. I mean, it's going to help you. It's going to help you to grow, but it's not going to create all the demand that you need. So you need to make sure that if you're jumping into something like this, you have the patient base already, that you know that you can convert into doing these things. So that's where I find people make a mistake oftentimes with getting into dry eye is I think they think I buy the equipment and people are going to come and they're going to be tearing down my door to get these dry eye treatments. No, like it takes a lot of education. It takes a lot of time to educate patients on the benefits of it. And the patient ultimately has to see value in what you're suggesting. So if they see the value in it, then they're going to jump into doing those treatments. But it's difficult to do a wishy-washy recommendation without the diagnostic tools available to really show that patient what impact this management's going to make for them.
Right. And from the, it's funny, from the marketing side, you're talking from the business side, which is what I was hoping that you would dive into, because I think the part about perhaps you meet someone who is just fantastic, a doctor with a certain specialty that your audience just doesn't know about yet or know that you offer it. If you were to come to me tomorrow and say, hey, we brought in someone who is an AMD specialist and they're going to evolve our practice in this regard, we need people in the door tomorrow. My first response to you from a marketing standpoint would be, okay, but do people A, know you have that, and B, know that they even have the symptoms or are dealing with the challenges that you can now support with? And that will definitely influence the marketing in terms of, are we focusing on lead generation right now? Or are we focusing on branding you to be thought of within that area of specialty care that you can now support? I think we've gone down that conversation a lot. And if you'd feel comfortable speaking to it a little bit, you and I have done together, your team created a fantastic video that was a tour of the facilities of the practice. And what's interesting about that one is that it didn't really have any kind of call to action within it. Yet it's become one of my favorite parts of your marketing campaign, because within it, what you've done so well in terms of utilizing that from an awareness side is you're just showing off the capacities that you have. You're showing off your facilities, you're showing off the feel and the character of your brand without necessarily asking someone to do something right away, but yet it is still contributing to more success within your practice. How do you see that kind of step that you've taken, and why you even invested in building this beautiful video, this beautiful essentially commercial that's now used as part of your advertising campaign?
I think it's also because it builds awareness and confidence, I think, in the patient base as well. So we talked about this already, but building your brand, I think, is important. So the brand we want to build is a professional go-to facility where you can get all of this important focused care in all these different areas. You're almost building your clout with the informational video, and there was no education in the video at all. It's just strictly, these are the services we offer, and here's the great facility that we have, and here's the great people that we have. So then we can follow up with that with other marketing or with other resources or with the clinical education that you have in the practice. But I hear sometimes from colleagues that they say they've tried to sell, air quotes, dry eye to a patient, and they never heard of it before. And why are we suddenly talking about all these new technologies to do on this patient and it's going to cost thousands of dollars and they're mildly symptomatic. So, and Joe, their friend, uses drops and they're fine. So how do you create that knowledge gap, or how do you fix that knowledge gap for that patient? So when you create a brand and you create an awareness of, hey, you know what you're talking about, and this is why we're good at what we do, then that creates reassurance maybe to the patient when they come in and they get that education from you. And again, when they've heard it the multiple times already, they've seen it on your website, they've seen it in an ad, they've seen it on emails from you or your social media, that just helps to, again, reinforce that this isn't an out of left field recommendation.
So to you, the awareness piece is extremely important as a part of your overall lead generation campaign. It's not just one thing.
It has become more important to us over time. So I would say initially we were trying to grow and we wanted bums and seats. Now we're at a point where we're sufficiently booked. Could we always use more people and be booked further out? Sure. Like we're a week out, which is kind of a comfortable space. But if I want to add another doctor down the road, then we would start building up our bums and seats more, and then change our marketing tactic on that. So what's the business outcome or business objective? Well, if it's growing the practice, adding another doctor, then we're going to switch our marketing focus. But if it's getting more value out of the patients we already have and improving their outcomes, then that would be more of a specialty focus and such. So again, I think it comes back to, you have to ask yourself, what's our goal for this practice? Is it, I want to grow, I want to specialize, or I want to deepen within my own patient base, more services and better outcomes for patients.
So at a place where you're sitting at your practice and seeing that your schedule is fairly consistently booked out, you're quite comfortable with your capture rate, but there's always room to grow and increase your average revenue per patient and offer better care to your patients at the same time. What numbers would scare you if you and I came to our meeting and I said, hey, here's what we're seeing. Here are the good things and here are some of the bad things in terms of you're sitting in this place where you're comfortable right now. What are some of those metrics that would make you go, something needs to change?
Number one, it would be our own business internal analytics that I would first look at and identify some concerns. So one concern would be our average dollar per patient was going down, or our average new patient rate was going down, or our capture rate and dispensing is going down, our dry eye capture rate's going down. All those internal metrics we'd be looking at and reviewing. We've come to you before saying, hey, we're noticing this trend at this practice. Can we change this marketing to help to fix this? So we're always using those analytics to guide our marketing decisions now. When you're just starting out, like I said, you just want bums and seats, you just want to get marketing out there to get people in. But now we can tailor it a lot more based on every practice, saying, hey, you know what, this practice, they're not as far booked out anymore. Let's focus on bums and seats on this one. This one, we're well booked out in advance. But you know what? We still see an opportunity in growing the dry eye portion of the practice. So let's focus on more marketing in dry eye, in email campaigns, social media. In this practice, you know what? I can see we have a lot more kids, but our myopia management capture rate is really low. Let's focus on a campaign about myopia management in this practice, because we either have an awareness issue or a conversion issue. Something's not, we're not understanding why that capture rate is different. So in our analytics within our practice, we look at what's the capture rate from a dry eye perspective on all our adult patients. And then we also look at, in terms of myopia, what percentage of our myopic kids are in myopia management under 16. So if we have a practice that's really low, well, that might be an educational concern or issue. And it could be a talk track issue even with the doctor and how they approach it. It could be a tools issue. Are they using the tools that we use to educate patients well on risk of myopia management? So we help marketing, all of these data points help us to guide how do we want to better approach our patient base.
Yeah, I think that in any meeting that you and I have sat in, when we're in our monthly meetings and we're sharing kind of what's happening from your side, what's happening from our side, I think if either of us came to that meeting unprepared with our numbers from both sides, we would simply be going off feel. If you came to me and said, we're just not busy enough, and it's the question of what isn't busy enough? Well, we don't have as many appointments. Okay, but how's your capture rate, or what's your average revenue per patient? And those aren't numbers that you have from your side. It's going to be very difficult from a marketing perspective to know what to offer. By managing to the numbers from both a marketing side and a practice management side, I think what it is it's almost you being kind to me and me being kind to you in terms of what our strategies are. Because I see it all the time when we'll go walking around a conference and I'll see what other marketing agencies might be pitching. And it is a matter of, here is the full scope of everything that you need. It makes me go, no, but we don't know. If we don't know your numbers, if we don't know the numbers from your side, how are we to recommend what the best marketing plan is for you? Because like you've talked about, there might be some practices that are doing extremely well in terms of filling up the schedule, but it might have the lowest capture rate. Whereas the other practice, capture rate is off the charts, but you're having trouble filling the seats and getting butts in seats. If you don't have those numbers to come to me with, I'm not going to be able to say which type of marketing is going to be best for helping to fill that opportunity. But from the other side, if I were to simply come to you and said, we need to do awareness ads, email, social media, and PPC immediately, and we need to go for it for both of those practices, I know that the emphasis on one versus the other is going to create different outcomes. And for the sake of your business, you need those different outcomes in those opportunities to basically see the improvement from both sides.
Those are great examples. So those two practices, practice A, who's, let's say, 75% full, but have a great average dollar per patient, when you have those numbers and you come to you saying, hey, you know what, we're doing really well with all these patients. Here's the average dollar per patient. Here's our capture rate. Here's all this stuff. Hey, you know what? You have a good process internally that you're converting all these patients really well. We just need to get more bums and seats to fill you up. But if it's a capture rate issue and a low dollar per patient, but you're full, you're not focusing as much on new bums and chairs. You're focusing on awareness of how do we get those patients in your practice to buy from you, or to understand your expertise, or to understand the value within your practice. So it's a totally different approach in terms of how you approach those two patient bases. And if you applied the same I know we're kind of saying the same thing, but if you applied the same blanket approach across both practices, you would get a minimal improvement on both, as opposed to a targeted approach on both. I mean, it's like anything we manage disease-wise, we always do a targeted approach. We don't ever pick a blanket approach to everybody, no matter what they present with. So in marketing, you would want to do the same. You would want to look at the numbers and the metrics and what they're presenting with, and then make a clinical decision on, hey, how can I best approach this?
So it's basically like how you manage people. And I see this as anyone who's managed a team before recognizes that the different skills and competencies that their different team members have, that directly impacts what you're going to focus on with them and how much time you're going to spend on certain things. It is absolutely the same with how you evaluate what type of marketing you should or shouldn't do based on the needs within your practice.
It's kind of like doing an evaluation on them and then figuring out where do you need to focus and direct a plan, 100%. And marketing, I think, people think is a really easy thing to do by yourself. I started out doing my own website. There's no way we're as successful at capturing patients and delivering on our brand ourselves as we are with you guys doing it. I mean, none of us in our field like it when a patient comes in and says, I did my own research and this is my diagnosis. So I don't know why I would ever try to do that in marketing, because I did not go to school for it. I did not focus on it. It is not my specialty. But patients come to us for our expertise, so we should use our partners for their expertise as well.
It's very clear that you have a grasp of the metrics from a marketing side and from a business standpoint. And I really like what you said there about how if you're focusing on what's going on within the practice and you trust us to help with your marketing on this side, how can you continue that brand that we're marketing? How can you continue to encourage your team members to kind of embrace that marketing and that brand kind of within how they show up to patients? Because I haven't met a single member of your team that doesn't embrace all of the same things that we are trying to basically communicate through your marketing campaigns. it seems like such a key focus within your organization that what is most important to you to be communicated on a broader scale seems to be what's also very important that each one of your team members embodies. And I feel like that is such a key part of a marketing program actually working, is that what people see online, what people learn about you before they come in, that is also very well represented by the people who are running and operating your practice, from the person who greets you to the optician who helps you out as you're on your way out of the practice. Can you speak to how you and your team have really tried to implement that over the years?
Again, I think it comes down to the brand and communicating to your team and getting them to understand what's the brand you're trying to represent and what's the experience you want to give to a patient. And when a patient thinks of us, what should they think of? And so I think that's really important. So you got to look back to, like, what's your mission within your practice? What's your core values within your practice? What are some of the pillars that you operate in your practice and operate around, so that your team members can make sure that any decision that they do or make, or what we do, even internally or on our executive team, is, are we following those pillars of our core values and our mission statement and all that stuff? So it comes back to that. Could we do a better job of making sure every staff person knows their core values and mission statement? For sure. I think they understand the spirit behind all of that, for sure. But that's something we're working on right now as well, is like disseminating to every member of our team what are all those things, so that when you make a decision, or when you're representing yourself within the business, are you embodying those aspects? And I think it comes around culture as well, building the culture within your practice of patient-focused care, excellence, friendliness, supportiveness, et cetera, to the patients. Patients feel that. When they can see the cultures there internally in your practice, they can feel that too. So they know it exists there, and then they feel that it's communicated and put on them as well. So I think that's really important. And again, evaluating every aspect of your business. Is it happening on the phone? Is it happening when they walk in? Is it happening in the exam room? Is it happening in pre-test? Is it happening in the dispensary? Is every part of your business operating to exude that same brand and feeling that you want it to exude? And then we poll our patients. We ask every patient after they've been in for exam, hey, how was your experience today at a 5? Can you give us your experience? And we want to make sure that everyone is giving us a 4 or 5, largely 5 out of 5. And if we ever get a 1 or 2, we're following up with that patient to understand, hey, what happened? Can we learn from this? Is there anything that, and maybe the staff person didn't necessarily, or doctor, didn't necessarily mean something to come off a certain way. But if it was perceived that way, then how do we make sure it's not perceived that way in the future, but we can still communicate the message that needs to get across? So reevaluating that all the time is important.
Wes, something that I have learned from you in the time working together is that your emphasis on the authenticity of your brand and what you're really striving to represent to your patients, you're always very authentic with what you want represented online. And I feel like from our conversations, whether it be about work or personal, it's always what you expect, it's always consistent, it's always authentic. And I think that's something that a lot of new grads can really take into this, is that whatever you feel that your brand is, whatever you're going to push that message out to new patients or current patients, make sure it's authentically you, because that's ultimately how a brand has staying power and how it can turn into a successful business like you've done. So I want to thank you very much for taking your time today. I know how busy you are. I appreciate you giving this time to us, and I know that our listeners will be very excited to hear from you and essentially hear from someone who's probably done a lot of the things that new grads and younger optometrists are really striving to do in their careers. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Tyler. Thanks for having me on.